If I gave you $1,000 right now and told you that your future depends on what you do with it, most people would either spend it, save it, or overthink it until they do nothing. But the truth is, there are only two paths that actually build real wealth over time, and that is stocks or real estate. And the crazy part is, most beginners pick the wrong one simply because they don't understand how each game actually works. So in this video, I'm going to break it down in the simplest way possible, and by the end, you'll know exactly which one you should start with depending on where you are right now, because this decision can literally change your financial future. Now, let's start with the option that almost everyone talks about first, which is the stock market. And I get it, stocks feel easy. You can start with almost nothing, you download an app, you buy a few shares, and suddenly you feel like you're investing. It's simple, it's accessible, and it feels like you're doing something smart with your money. And to be fair, stocks are powerful. Over time, they have created millionaires. They allow your money to grow without you doing physical work, and they give you access to some of the biggest companies in the world. But here's the part nobody tells beginners. Stocks are easy to enter, but hard to master, because once you put your money in, the market starts moving. Prices go up, prices go down, and your emotions start going crazy. One day you feel like a genius because your investment is up. The next day you feel like you made a mistake because everything is dropping. And this is where most beginners fail, not because stocks don't work, but because they don't understand how to handle volatility. Now, think about this for a second. If you invest $1,000 and you get a 10% return in a year, that's $100, which is good, but it's not life-changing. And that's the reality most people ignore. Stocks are not a get-rich-quick system. They are a long-term game. And if you don't have patience, you will lose. And here's another thing that might surprise you. The stock market rewards consistency more than intelligence, meaning the people who win are not always the smartest. They are the ones who stay in the game the longest. They keep investing, they don't panic, and they understand that time is their biggest advantage. But let's be honest, most beginners don't think long-term. They want results now, and that's why they start chasing trends, buying random stocks, listening to hype, and hoping something explodes. And sometimes it works, but most of the time it doesn't. So what you end up with is frustration, confusion, and the feeling that investing is complicated. But it's not. It's just misunderstood. Now let's shift to real estate, because this is where things start to get interesting. Real estate is completely different. It's not something you can just jump into with a small amount of money. It feels bigger, slower, and more serious, and because of that, most beginners think it's not for them. But here's the truth. Real estate is one of the most powerful wealth-building tools in the world, not because it's easy, but because it combines multiple advantages at the same time. When you own property, you're not just hoping for price growth. You can earn income, you can benefit from appreciation, and you can leverage money, meaning you can control a large asset with a smaller amount of your own cash. And that's something stocks don't really offer in the same way. But here's the catch. Real estate has a higher barrier to entry. You need more money, more planning, and more patience. And for a beginner, that can feel overwhelming, especially if you only have a small amount like $1,000. So the question becomes, does that mean real estate is not an option for you right now? And the answer might surprise you, because the truth is, you don't have to start by buying a full property. There are ways to enter the real estate world even with limited funds. But before we get into that, you need to understand one key difference between these two paths. Stocks are about growing your money, while real estate is about building systems that generate money. And that difference changes everything, because if your goal is just to increase your savings, stocks can do that. But if your goal is to create income and long-term stability, real estate starts to look very attractive. And this is where most people get stuck. They don't know which path matches their current situation, and that's exactly what we're going to solve in the next part, because the answer is not as simple as choosing one over the other. So now that you understand how both of these work, the real question is, which one should you actually start with as a beginner? And the answer depends on something most people ignore, which is your current position. Because the strategy that works for someone with $10,000 is not the same as someone starting with $1,000, and if you try to copy the wrong approach, you will feel stuck very quickly. So let's break this down clearly. If you are starting with a small amount of money and little experience, stocks are usually the better entry point, not because they are superior, but because they allow you to learn the game with lower risk. You can start small, you can understand how markets move, you can build discipline, and most importantly, you can develop the habit of investing consistently. And that habit alone can change your life over time.
because once you learn how to delay gratification and think long-term, you are already ahead of most people. But here's where it gets interesting. Stocks should not be your final destination. They should be your starting point. Because while stocks grow your money, they don't give you the same level of control or income potential that real estate can provide. And this is where smart investors make a shift. They use stocks as a foundation and then transition into real estate when they are ready. And this is the part that most beginners never hear about. The goal is not to choose one forever. The goal is to use each one at the right time. So imagine this. You start investing in stocks, you build your capital slowly, you stay consistent, and over time your money grows. And instead of spending that money, you use it as a stepping stone into real estate. Now suddenly you're not just investing, you're building assets that can generate income. And that's where things start to change. Because once you own an income-producing asset, you are no longer relying only on growth. You are creating cash flow. And cash flow is what gives you freedom. But let's keep it real. This doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, patience, and discipline. And that's why most people never get there. They either quit too early or they get distracted by shortcuts. But if you stay focused on the process, the results will come. And here's something important you need to understand. The biggest mistake beginners make is waiting for the perfect time to start. They think they need more money, more knowledge, or better conditions. But the truth is, the best time to start is when you have enough understanding to take action, not when everything is perfect. Because perfection doesn't exist, progress does. And every step you take builds momentum. So if you're watching this and you're still unsure, here's the simplest way to think about it. If you have limited money and you want to start building the habit of investing, start with stocks. Keep it simple, stay consistent, and focus on learning. But if your goal is long-term wealth and income, don't stop there. Use that foundation to move into real estate when you are ready, because that combination is where real power comes from. And this is the part most people miss. It's not stocks versus real estate. It's stocks and real estate working together at different stages of your journey. And once you understand that, everything becomes clearer. You stop comparing, you stop overthinking, and you start taking action. And that's what actually moves you forward. Because at the end of the day, the best investment is not just where you put your money, it's the decision to start. So if you got value from this video, make sure you like, comment, and share it with someone who needs to see this. Because one decision can change everything, and the sooner you make it, the faster your future starts to look different.